Okay, so it's a Tuesday evening in Gothenburg, Sweden, and performing tonight here at Trädgår'n is Carcass, and Hell, and I'm sitting here together with Jeff Walker from Carcass. Hello, Jeff, how are you today?
I'm good, just woken up, a bit groggy, so I'm good, I guess. Sober, it's not good to be sober.
Well, in front of us we actually have some homemade cinnamon buns, because I often treat my interviewees with some homemade buns. I don't know if you've heard of the term fika.
Does that mean rohypnol in Swedish?
No,
Sure?
no. Well, it's a Swedish convention in which we take a coffee break and then eat some sweet.
Oh, we call it elevensies in England.
11Cs.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds very cute. But
I'm not awake at that time of the day, so I wouldn't know.
Okay. Well, you said you are soon going to have dinner and you'll have the bun afterwards. So yeah. But speaking of Swedish culture and the Swedish metal scene is quite big.
It's big in Sweden, I heard.
Yeah. And speaking of Swedish bands, how's it like touring with Amon Amarth?
It's good. Enjoying it. I mean, the reason we did this is they have a very specific kind of fan, and we're attempting to try and cross over and win some of their audience. So it's a tough battle, especially in Germany, but we'll see how it goes in Sweden because we've not played with them in Sweden. So
was it hard to please the audience in Germany?
I think it's just hard to please Germans in general, isn't it? It was a tough job, very partisan crowd. They know what they like, and I think that's symptomatic of music nowadays in general, where people will go to a concert. I mean, for example, I was talking to someone in a bar last night, and she was saying, I'm going to go and watch this band and that band, but I'm not going to watch that band. It's kind of like, I think people should turn up at doors and watch all the bands,
It seemed like they were quite narrow-minded.
Yeah, people are set in their ways. They're not particularly interested in trying out something new or just giving bands a chance, I guess. So that's the way I see it. I think when we were younger, in the old days, when I was a kid, I'd go to a concert and I'd want to see. I'd want to experience everything, good or bad, And people tend to. It seems to me that a lot of people are staying in the pub and then coming down for the bands when they want to see them. They'll ask what time is your band playing, and then they'll make sure that they arrive at that time. So. But I've got no real complaints. I mean, we've not toured Europe since 1994, and this is the longest tour we've ever done, and it's gone really good. It's fun, and we won't be doing this again for a long time. So
you're already sick of it?
Wouldn't say sick, but yeah, we're used to having an easy life. We're used to playing to our own audience, and we used to most of the time when we play Europe now, we're only playing festivals. So. I'm not really complaining. I mean, I'm at least I'm having fun in the band, so that's all that matters,
Well, I look forward to seeing you later tonight, and hopefully most of the people in the audience will show up when the doors open.
Well, I hope so, for Hell's sake,
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe people will leave after Hell. So.
Let's hope not. I don't think so. But I have some questions regarding your latest album, Surgical Steel, which was released in September this year. And I have
Is that the question? Yes, it was. It was released in September.
Yeah, well, I have a question coming up now.
Okay.
But on some of the songs, for instance, 1985, you have rejuvenated some older rehearsal tapes. What was the purpose of this?
To make music for people to enjoy. It's that simple. We've always incorporated elements and ideas that we never used on previous albums. On every album, there's always a hint at the past. And with that track in particular, you just mentioned, it's just something that happened in the studio. I found the tape and I suggested it to Bill Steer, the guitarist, and after a bit of arguing, he agreed to give it a go, and it created a really interesting track, So it's just, you have ideas, and 80% of the album is new material, but there's a lot of stuff from old tapes that we never used. Not because it never made the grade in the past. It's just ideas that you only have a limited time when you're writing an album, and you can't use everything. So, it's just stuff we had in reserve that we used. I like, gluing bits together rather than just trying to write things in 2 or 3 months. It's good to take your time.
So now was a good time for these tapes to be used.
Well, I think it just gives it more credibility. We've come back after 17 years, and if, let's for example say we were trying to compete with what the kids are doing musically nowadays, we'd look like idiots. We're Carcass, and we've got our own style to a certain extent, so we need to just, expand and exploit that. So we just used material that we never used in the past just because it's Carcass.
But in general, how was it putting together this album after this 17-year-long hiatus? Was it extra hard, or did you have extra material to pick from?
No, I mean, we ended up with the 15 tracks of material, and we just picked the best ones for the album itself. I thought it was easy. I mean, it was pretty... Rushed is not the right word, because obviously, it's like a wine fermenting, because we only had maybe 20 rehearsals, because we're all busy with other bands, so we only got together maybe 20 times. So it was actually quite spontaneous and quite quick. We were still writing the night before we went into the studio. So there's a lot of it was planned, but then a lot of it was still organic and fresh and just spontaneous, and that's what's cool. Give us a bit of edge, I don't think, personally I didn't think it was hard at all, and I don't think the rest of I don't think Dan or Bill thought it was hard, If it was difficult, then we would have to be questioning why the hell we're doing it. If bands are struggling to come up with material, then maybe they should go and get a job in McDonald's. It's that simple, You're meant to be expressing something, aren't you, artistically? And if you find you've got nothing to say or play, then you've got no art.
Well, that's a very valid point. But I recently saw an interview with that you did with the Radio Futuro in Chile, from Chile, and
you saw it on the radio.
No,
you heard it?
No, it was on YouTube. It was
good
on
old
YouTube. Yes, I love YouTube. And in it, you said that people will be shocked how good the album will be. It was before it was released, obviously.
It's called hyperbole. You have to hype. You have to gotta give a good sound bite. You can't tell them it's the worst thing they're ever going to hear, can you? But they won't buy it then. But
do you think that people had perhaps lost faith in Carcass?
I mean, nearly every interview we've done, it's been a case of the interviewer said, they didn't know what to expect and they thought it was going to be crap. So they're like, everyone's relieved that we've actually, done something good.
So doesn't it feel very good personally? Yeah, I've proven a point.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we did it, and I never doubted for a moment we weren't capable of impressing people. I mean, it's that cocky arrogance that you have that makes you form a band in the first place. It's like a peacock showing its feathers. That's why you're doing it. You're not doing it to just be mundane and boring. You're trying to impress your peers, other musicians. I've got friends in other bands who I don't necessarily keep in touch with that well, and I've got text messages telling me how good the music is, and it's they don't have to say that. They can just not bother texting you.
Yeah.
If they think it sucks, you know what I mean? So that's really heartwarming,
Yeah, I can imagine that. But through 2 weeks into the recording process, your producer Colin Richardson left due to several reasons. Can you explain a little behind that?
Well, I don't know. It's a bit long-winded. Basically, the recording took a lot longer than I anticipated. I thought it would have been finished after a few weeks, but we had the luxury of taking our time because we were in the engineer's home studio, and it was taking a long time. And other things were coming up. For example, he got the option or the offer to mix Heaven Shall Burn's album, which was in the middle of our recording, and I was like, fine, go and do that, because he needs to make some money. He was doing us a favour financially, and other projects were getting in the way, and then ultimately we had no deadline, and I think that was a dangerous thing with Colin. With no deadline, it was dragging on and on and on. And I went to the States, and then he needed rough mixes of the album just to play to the record labels out in California, and he gave me he didn't mix all the stuff. It was meant to be a rough mix, but he spent a lot of time doing the mix. And 2 weeks into the mix, I was in Mexico with another band to play with, and I got the message off Andy Sneap. Actually, he was joking, saying Colin's around my studio again reamping the guitars, and I'm like, what's he doing, And I guess I went back to England and I lost my temper, and a lot of frustrations came out in one phone call. So that added to the fact that he was feeling a bit lost with the mix anyway after spending so much time with it, and also the fact that he got the offer of mixing the Trivium album, It's a lot of things coming together. I mean, whatever happened, it's there's no ill will anywhere, and it's for the best, and we're happy with how it turned out. I mean, because Colin had told me because we have these strange conversations, but he did say one of the few people he would trust to mix it would be Andy Sneap. So it all worked out, for the best, I guess.
So there's no hard feelings between the two of you?
No, because what's funny with Colin, every album we've done has always been a bloody struggle. With the exception of Symphonies of Sickness, every other album there was some kind of struggle at some point, I mean, for example, the guitar tone on the Heartwork took about 3 or 4 days to get, So it's little things like that. Swan Song, we had some trouble with the mixes, and Necroticism we were probably running out, because we were using our own money on the album, we were running out of money trying to fund it. So little things like that. So it's part of the charm of working with Colin, So.
But how was it working with Andy Sneap instead?
It was good, great. I mean, we gave him the stuff, we went round, we had a say in what we wanted on the mix, so I've known Andy for a long time, and it was cool. Mm.
From what I understood, it seems like Andy becomes some kind of like an extra band member whenever he produces an album. Yeah, was that the case?
Yeah,
for
but
you?
he was only mixing this. It would have been different if we were recording with him.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he definitely, the things that we insisted on that he would have done differently if he'd have been given free rein. I mean, he did have free rein for the most part, but he was prepared to listen to what we wanted. So I don't think you can say it's a typical Andy Sneap mix, because we know there's things we wanted highlighting in the mix, and but he was on the same page. He's the same age, and we were going for a more 80s kind of old school mix, and hopefully we kind of half achieved that, but it still sounds modern. So we all seem to be on the same page,
Okay. How's it touring with him and the rest of the band members in Hell?
It's fine. I mean, there's 18 people, including the driver, on the bus, and there's been no fist fights yet. So it's all cool. We're all at Brits, and we're all around the same age, or in Hell's case, a bit older. And it's good. It's fine. No problems. I mean, it's really cool.
Okay. Well, the other day I happened to bump into an old interview with you from 1992. It was from Headbangers Ball.
The one with Miller.
Yeah, exactly. And in it you said that death metal died in 1987.
Yeah.
Is that still your opinion?
Yeah.
Why?
That's the golden age for people my age. Nothing really exciting or interesting. I mean, the way we saw it is everything had been covered back then. Musically, dynamically, what you're going to do, be it playing fast or heavy, all those elements are already done by all the bands that were around. All people have ever done since is recycle the same thing, or try and mix it with corn or hip hop influences. It's okay. That was a tongue-in-cheek thing what I said, but we're definitely cut of that cloth. That's where we're looking for inspiration, and that's why maybe our album sounds fresh, because we're not a deathcore band. We don't have breakdowns. We're taking influence from the bands that excited us when we were kids, and maybe after so long it's unrecognizable for some people. I mean, it sounds fresh because people don't have a point of reference. Yeah. They've had I don't know, 20 years, or 17 years since we split up, of other bands. I don't want to be arrogant, copying some of the ideas that we made popular. We didn't invent these things, but the whole downtuning to B, we were the band that introduced that to modern metal. We never get the credit for it. I can think of one guitarist from, I won't go into that story, from Gothenburg, that when I mentioned that, I think he asked me what tuning we were, and I said B, and he's like, oh, like In Flames. I'm like, no, not like In Flames, like Carcass.
So that wasn't really a compliment from his side.
Maybe he was just deluded.
Perhaps, you never know with Swedes. Something that I also found interesting with this interview was that you said that Symphonies of Sickness refined and redefined what Carcass was. I was just wondering, how would you define Carcass today, 2013?
I don't know. I think what we play is death metal, but then there are other death metal bands or other purists around that would think we sound wimpy. I mean, if you play us next to Suffocation or Cannibal Corpse, maybe we sound like pussies, you know, because we don't sound as intense, and we're a lot more melodic. So I don't know what to say. If I said we were a heavy metal band, if we share the same stage as Isis or Saxon, we don't sound like those bands. But that's where we're from, you know, heavy metal background. So I don't know what to say, you know. It's just Carcass.
Just Carcass. Noted. Okay, so just to wrap things up, bringing back the Fika stuff. I was just
to bite it?
Well, you could, and let me know what you think.
Are you sure you've not put some date rape drug in this?
Maybe.
Nice, very nice, thank you. Tack.
You're welcome, varsågod. But lastly, I was wondering, which musician would you like to have like a calm fika moment with? It could be dead or alive.
What does that mean? Share a cake with?
Yeah, have a coffee break with and eat something sweet.
No one really springs to mind. The problem is you should never meet your heroes, because they're always going to disappoint you. So I don't really have those kind of I don't really put anyone on the pedestal, you know. So I've met famous people, and what I found being in a band is when people talk to you, they're always talking about themselves. So I know damn well if I did meet someone interesting, I wouldn't be telling them all about Carcass. What I find is people are always telling them about their own bands, and I'm thinking it's just kind of. If I met Jimmy Page, I would not be telling him about Carcass because he wouldn't be bloody interested, and that's how I am when people are telling me about their bands.
So you would probably avoid meeting one of your heroes for Fika.
No. I think it's always cool to say hello to someone and shake their hand, but then walk away and leave them in peace, because God knows people want more than 5 minutes of your time, and they've never got anything interesting to say.
Okay. Well, that was Jeff Walker's final words here for Rocknytt.
Negative as usual. I do apologise.
Well, thank you for taking the time, and I hope that you'll have a nice dinner tonight here in Gothenburg, and I look forward to seeing your set tonight.
Thank you. Tack.
Thank you.